Obviously, we're here to talk about the next 5-year strategic plan, and we are planning to plan at this point. So I'm Stephanie Connor. I am on the Tennessee Arts Commission representing District 5, and Ann has asked me to chair this process for the commission, and I'm very excited to do that. I'm kind of a planning nerd. I like plans. So I'm excited about that, and it's great timing for the commission with Ann coming in and being able to work with us on this 5-year plan and create a vision and talk about ways to support you all in the work that you do. So it's good timing. I'm just going to go over a little bit of general info to give you kind of a very broad picture of what we're looking to do. And this is very broad because, like I say, this is very early in the process. It's as you all know, because we've all had to do strategic plans, it's a very complex and challenging process, but it's so vital, especially in these changing times that we find ourselves in right now with fiscally and technologically and demographically. And so because of this ever-changing environment, we want to operate keeping in mind that we want something that is vision-based, constituent-driven, and also adaptable to change and fluid. And I found this quote that y'all may have heard in your work before, but I thought it was a good quote to remember as we move forward in this process. But it said, "The future is not some place we are going to, but one we are creating. The paths are not to be found, but made. And the activity of making them can change both the maker and the destination." So that being said, I'll just go through this really quickly, some of the things that we're going to be looking at as we go through this process. Obviously, our programs and services, and Ann's going to talk about our process in a little bit, but this is going to involve a lot of help from you. And we're going to need a lot of feedback and input from you to make sure that the Commission's programs and services are consistent with your needs and that the work that we do reflects what you all need, what's going on in your markets and your environments. Partnerships, engaging the public. We'll be looking at strategic ways to increase public participation in and awareness of the economic value, economic impact of the arts, and the quality of life issues. We'll be looking at our own resources to make sure that our decisions are the most efficient and serve you in the most efficient and effective ways. And we'll be looking at new resource possibilities. Obviously, we'll be talking a lot about the license plate program and how we can get the most out of that. And then we've been talking a lot about monitoring and measuring and how that can be tricky sometimes. So we really want to get into that and look at measures that we can all understand, that are consistent and trustworthy, so that we can all make our case with data that is of the same language. And we'll be looking at how we do that for ourselves and how we can work with you all to do that at the local level too. So that's the brief rundown, and now I'm going to turn it over to Ann to kind of tell you what happens next. But I look forward to working with all of you on this.
Good morning, everybody. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell another joke. Why don't we go to the next? I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, we're just going to talk real briefly. Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie was really great to sort of set the stage for this. We're going to the agenda today. We've done the introduction and welcome. We're going to talk nationally about what's going on in the arts, sort of the arts arena. I'm sure you all know, but we thought it would be good to put it versus the state perspective about where Tennessee fits in the national perspective, as what, including our own story. We call what we're Marin Brown, who we're so excited to have here, has worked with a lot of state arts agencies, is an expert in this field, and she's going to, Marins is going to facilitate both the taking of the pulse and roundtable discussions. And the purpose of this is we really want to get information from you. And so we have, and I don't want to tell you everything that Marin's going to tell you, but we've got broad questions that we really want your feedback for. And also, if there is something that you want to tell us that is not a part of these 3 questions or 4 questions? 3 questions. Okay, yep, sorry. The open-ended question really is meant if there's something you want to tell us, this won't be your only opportunity, but tell us and write it down, and we're going to take that information, and this is going to be the start of developing a strategic plan. So this is our launch-off period. We felt very strongly that this is a conference we hold every 2 years. It is a great deal of our grantees or potential grantees are in this room across the state, so we wanted to hear from you. So then after we do these roundtable discussions, then we're going to do sort of report out of some of the tables, and then we'll wrap up. I promise there is a wrap-up period here. So Stephanie talked about our current strategic plan was assembled in 2007. It is due to expire in 2013. We are working, we've talked with NEA, we're required by NEA to have a new strategic plan. We worked with them, they've sort of blessed our process that we're going to talk about in a minute, and knows that this is where we're starting, this is our launch-off period. This is sort of a wonky sort of description of our process. You can see it up there. But you can see, I think, the constituent input and analysis. To me, what that means is this will not be our only time that we're going to ask your opinion and your advice. We will be coming back to you. My hope is, if budgets will allow, that we will have 3 sessions if we can, one in the east, one in the middle, and one in the west is my hope. That's what we can do. But we'll have to see budgets-wise if we can do that. But that is our intent, because we would like to get out sort of, amongst you and where you live, and I think that's one of the best ways to really get at the heart, because we want this document to be a living, breathing document, as Stephanie said, that works for all of us. So, does anybody have any questions about this? Otherwise, I think we're a little behind. We'd like to get started. So I think, Marin, why don't we go on to you? Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's, super early in the morning, and you're actually looking incredibly awake, which is great. I really applaud you. In fact, I was so asleep this morning that I poured coffee on myself, and I experienced the incredible Tennessee, wonderful, genteel attitude, and all of my seatmates gave up their napkins for me, which was very nice. So thank you. It's really, really nice to be here. I had a great drive over here with Lee Patton, and I've just had a great time being here so far. As Ann mentioned, I'm Marin Brown, and I'm a National Arts Management Consultant, and I do work with a lot of state arts agencies on their strategic planning process. I'm working right now with the New Hampshire State Council on the Arts, and it's just really nice for me to be able to work at a statewide level with different states, gathering input from their constituents like all of you. And I can tell you that the Tennessee Arts Commission is incredibly interested in your opinion and what you have to say. So I really appreciate your being here today for this session. I wanted to start off with just a little bit of what Ann calls pitching, which I think is so great. She calls these sessions pitching and catching sessions. That is, we give you a little bit of information, and then you can give us some information back. And I just think that is such a great way to think of this this constituent opportunity for input. So when we take a look at Tennessee, I just want to tell you a little bit about your state and kind of the special things about your state that you may not be quite aware of. Certainly, the the performing arts are really incredibly strong in the state of Tennessee. And the National Endowment for the Arts underscored that in a research report when they identified Tennessee as one of the top centers of the United States for musicians, producers, and directors. And that was really, I think, really capturing the essence of what makes Tennessee so special, one of the things. Visitors to the state can take part in over 800 festivals and 300 museums, in addition to a variety of other different cultural attractions. And over 16,000 creative businesses employ over 50,000 Tennesseans in the creative industries, which is really extraordinary when you look at that across the country. Now, in terms of Tennessee as it relates to the rest of the country, it's also important to note that you have an incredible concentration of performing arts establishments, employment, and revenue that South Arts has identified as the top southern state that is in their district, in their catchment area that has that strength. And then Tennessee Arts Commission, your state arts agency, ranks the number 11 amongst the states in the country for per capita spending in the arts, which is very impressive given all of the cutbacks that have been happening to state arts agencies around the country. Anne asked me to reflect a little bit on my own perceptions about some of the trends that are happening nationally in the arts. And this certainly isn't exhaustive. It's not a complete list of all the trends that I see out there. But it's just gives you a little bit of a snapshot of what I'm seeing in the field with all of the organizations that I work with. The first is that in many ways the arts sector has a very outmoded business model that it's working with. And that's reflected in a couple of things that are very difficult for arts organizations around the country to deal with. One of them is that we have a huge number of facilities that we operate in the arts. And those facilities are very expensive to maintain. I was talking with somebody who's working in a historic theater in Nashville. How many of you work in historic buildings and have a lot of facilities? Okay, some third of you in this room have facilities. And you know from running those facilities that it's very difficult to cover the cost of maintenance and repair and restoration and ultimately replacement of those facilities. And that's a really huge problem around the country that many arts organizations are struggling with now. It's really great at this conference because many of the speakers that we've heard from are talking about ways that you can raise funds from alternative sources. And I hope those of you who have facilities were there at the session yesterday on funding. There's also a huge reliance on individual donors and grant support, which is now diminishing as the oldest generation that's living right now is actually one of the most generous generations in all time, and so we're seeing a real shift in giving patterns for individuals to arts organizations. We're also seeing decreasing audiences in many organizations throughout the country, and it's really a real challenge for the arts and real difficulty integrating new technologies in the arts. So that's the bad news. The good news is, and I hope I haven't depressed you too much, the good news is, in terms of our business models, I'm seeing some really, really interesting and innovative work being done primarily by artists and young arts managers out there in the field, where they're turning city streets and really alternative spaces like storefronts into places where artists can exhibit their work and perform their work. And it's really, really exciting to see the kind of ways that the walls are breaking down between artists and the audiences that can appreciate them. So in many ways, the arts are getting out more into the community as a result of this economic downturn that we're experiencing. The other thing that's very interesting is that new models for arts participation are emerging. And there's some very, very innovative work that arts organizations are doing to reach out to new audiences. And there's also a real willingness to use technology in very creative ways by artists. I don't know how many of you saw the artist who had taken YouTube videos of all of these people singing a choral piece that he designed. He gave people the music and they all sang pieces of it, and then he combined them together and created a full choral piece. It was really extraordinary. That's the kind of thing that is happening. Many artists are making use of new media. Of course, many arts organizations are using new media in their operations and in their fundraising and many other ways. Marketing. I teach marketing. I always know about all those things. So, another trend that's happening is that there's a real increased scrutiny of public investment in the arts. And in many ways, that has created some opportunities for us because we've learned how to better measure the success of what it is that we do. And that's not all bad because there's some great outcomes. And we've really got a lot to be proud of in the work that we do. And these outcomes are really showing that. So that's a really, what I consider to be a very positive aspect of that scrutiny. The impact of high-stakes testing and curriculum frameworks, I was talking to an arts education teacher who's in the audience, have really been very, very challenging for arts education in the schools nationally. And I would expect that would be the same case here in Tennessee. What's been very interesting is that I've seen some really interesting trends in people starting to use the arts to teach other subject areas. So the arts integration has really been growing nationally, and I think that's a very positive transition that's been happening. Not that I don't think arts are important for themselves, and I want to be clear about that. I see the intrinsic value of the arts. I also think it's really a great tool for teaching people other subjects as well, and there's some really interesting work happening there. The other thing that's very interesting is that people are starting to recognize that arts are a great way to prepare people for a new economy. To teach people innovation skills and creativity is really key. Finally, partnerships are on the upturn, and as this conference shows us, there's lots and lots of cross-sector partnerships that people are engaging in between the arts and other sectors in their community to the benefit of our communities, and that's a really terrific thing. So on that note, I'm going to switch a little bit, and I'm going to have you, some of you, stand up. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and because this conference is about innovation and partnerships, I thought it'd be a good time to use this opportunity to do a little networking. I'm going to ask a series of questions and ask those of you who have experience in this area to please stand so that others can draw upon your experience during the breaks that are left in this conference and have a chance to just make some last contacts with people. So I wanted to ask anybody who's had experience forging a partnership with a college or university to please stand. College or university. And stay standing for a little bit. Okay. Now, can I just see by a show of hands of people not standing, is anybody interested in reaching out to colleges and universities who hasn't yet? Okay, that's great. So for those people who are holding their hands up, I want you to look around the room and see who is standing, because they are your experts on how to reach out to colleges and universities. Now, those of you who are standing, those of you who work at colleges or universities, can you just shake your hands a little bit? Okay, so this is the insider perspective on a college or university, and so take a look at those people too, because that is really important as well. So you can all sit down now. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask those people who've had experience reaching out or working with economic development agencies, chambers of commerce, and other business associations to please stand. Okay. Anybody who has an interest in working with them, please raise your hand. Who isn't right now? Okay. And of those people standing, how many people work at a business association, a chamber? Nobody. Okay. All right. So you can all sit down. Thank you very much. And this is the last one I'm going to lay out. And I'm telling you, I've chosen these very specifically because I teach partnership development in the arts quite a bit. And these are the categories that people are most interested in my experience, forging partnerships. So this last one is arts education partnerships. Anybody who's had experience forging partnerships with K through 12 schools or districts, please stand. Okay, there's quite a few of you out there. And how many of you who are interested in forging those kinds of partnerships, just raise your hands. Okay, all right. And how many of you who work at colleges and universities are standing? Shake your hand. Okay, great. Thank you very much, and you can all sit down. So the reason that we're interested in having you do this activity is not just to get your blood moving at 8 o'clock in the morning, but also because it's really important for you to recognize the experts in the room and for you to be able to see that there's so many, all of you have areas of expertise, and you can all share with each other that expertise. I've had some incredibly wonderful conversations with people where they've been able to share with each other resources and ideas, and that's the real value of this kind of convening, and really a great way for you to come together. So, let me tell you about what's in front of you. You have a little sheet of paper with these questions that Anne mentioned. There have been some folks who have been identified as facilitators at each of your tables. And if the facilitators, could you please raise your hands at the tables? If you don't see a facilitator at your table, could you please come and join a table that does have a facilitator? So facilitators, please keep your hands raised. And people who are not at a facilitated table, please do join that. It'll make it a lot easier for everybody. That facilitator is going to take notes on your conversation, and they're going to summarize the discussion in a report out, and also summarize it to the Tennessee Arts Commission. So on the questions, you'll see on the sheet of paper, you're going to see 3 questions. One of them is asking you about what are the opportunities and challenges in your communities? What's going on in your communities? What are the needs? And are there any opportunities or challenges that you feel that the arts can address? That's really a really key element. And then beyond financial support, what are the ways that the Tennessee Arts Commission can help you in addressing those community needs? So we have about 20 minutes, and I'd like you to just have a free-flowing conversation. If you'd like to have your own voice communicated to the Tennessee Arts Commission, feel free to fill out this sheet of paper and hand it to your table facilitator, who will give it to the Tennessee Arts Commission. And then after we're done, I'll be just having a few report outs and summarize the session. Thank you very much. Let's come together as a group. How'd it go? Was it good? Yeah? It seems like did you get a chance to talk pretty much through all your questions? Yeah, pretty much? Okay. So what I'm going to do, here's what we're going to do, is Shannon is the man with the microphone. He is going to walk around with a wireless microphone, and we're going to take as many report outs as we possibly can. But before we do, I just want to ask all the facilitators of the tables to please stand. And let's just give them a hand. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I was watching how furiously they were writing, and they did a wonderful job. So thank you so, so much. And Shannon was also a facilitator, so he's doing double duty today. Is anybody brave enough to go first and give some, I really mean highlights, so we can try to hear from as many tables as possible. Maybe 1 point from each of the 3 questions. There's one right over there. So I'm just asking facilitators, since they have been the ones to take such copious notes.
I'm going first because I can't read my own writing either, so I'd like to do this while it's still fresh in my mind.
I feel for you. I'm just like that.
Well, rather than address the questions separately, I'm just going to go over some of our discussion because they all really feed into each other. So as far as challenges, there's an aging audience out there, and we need to find out how to attract younger audiences who might have a different interest. And that kind of feeds into a challenge that perhaps our older audiences, they first got a lot of their interest in the arts through schools. And arts education in schools, not so much a big thing right now. So how do we attract new audiences that haven't already had some exposure to that in schools? And another challenge is in rural communities, there aren't as many good jobs anymore. There used to be manufacturing jobs where people could, earn a middle-class income, but now these new manufacturing jobs that come don't pay very well, which means there are fewer taxes going into the local economy, which means the chances of that tax money going into schools, and then specifically into art education, even less now. So that's another challenge that people face. And also another challenge in the schools is that everything is about standardized testing, which doesn't leave much room for the arts or many other things probably. Let's see. Another challenge we have in one community we talked about is it's a growing community, but it has a bit of an identity crisis. Who are they? What they want to be? But that feeds into actually an opportunity that in a community that is searching for an identity, someone needs to step up and be the leader and the facilitator in this search, and why not the arts? Who is better than the arts to step in and start creating those conversations and bringing people together? And also among those that need to be educated are the politicians, because if politicians can be educated about the arts and the value of the arts, they'll find that arts, help solve a lot of problems that people are looking at in other ways, and that investments in the arts can benefit the community as a whole. People could use some help with the commission in terms of helping with teachers, could use some more help in learning how to, for example, implement the Common Core requirements that are out there, and our arts education department actually has a lot of resources for that, and they do a great job about teaching integration. That's
great. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Sounds like you had some educators at your table.
I got educated.
Some arts. Oh. All right. And we've got another hand over here. Great.
Well, I agree with everything Lee said, but in addition to that, our table talked quite a bit about diversity, and there was a feeling that it was very difficult in some areas to reach across socioeconomic divides, to include people diversity on boards, in audiences, and this was a very, very big issue that we discussed. In terms of addressing that issue, we talked about having more diversity on boards and means of doing that, of increasing programming like multi-ethnic festivals, the idea being that if you can bring people to face with people that are different from them, I think the quote that somebody used from yesterday was, "It's hard to hate someone when you know their story." So increase face-to-face communication through the arts, and festivals seem to be a large way to do that. And going to what the Tennessee Arts Commission could do directly to benefit the issues of diversity, translate all materials into Spanish was one, and include webinars between various different organizations across the state focusing on the issue of diversity.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. We have a hand right over here in the front. Oh, isn't this nice? He's getting helped out here, which is really terrific. Thank you.
Hi. We also had a couple of other things that came up. We talked a lot about not only with the aging population losing our sponsors and our audience members and having to develop a new audience and a new base, but we also talked about losing our culture bearers. And trying to struggle to try to keep that authenticity that particularly Tennessee and this area is so well known for. Another thing that we talked about was the position that we're put in with funding when social services are at such a need right now, and that when it comes down to the donors having to make a choice between funding for the homeless versus funding for the theater. and the difficult ethical position that puts us in. I think that what we found at our table as we looked at those two particular things was that we need to look at raising our new audiences. We, as it was said, I think at your table, that the generation that has been so generous, they were raised on the young people's concerts and the mobile hour on the radio, and so maybe we need to reflect on that, and also in using the arts in placemaking. We talked about having to compete with bigger venues, smaller towns competing with bigger venues. So the things that we've done in this session with placemaking and helping teachers and partnering to be advocates for need within the arts, and as far as the Arts Commission helping us, we just decided we want more of this. We need more resources, we need more advocacy, we need more training.
Great, wonderful. Looks like we have a hand right here.
We talked about several things, along with what y'all been talking about, but we also mentioned because of the economic downturn, the cost-benefit analysis has really changed. People expect a lot more for free, and they expect quality stuff for free. It used to be that we could maybe give that for free, but now we can't. Also, the word community, there's a lot of different ways you can look at community. And we try to look at it in different ways, besides just the geography area of it. Some things that came up that we thought would be really great things. The structured networking was really huge. People loved it, the idea that you got them to stand up in different groups and see who did what. That's huge. People love to come to this because of networking. If y'all had better ways that you could get more networking so you can get ideas from people who are in your same exact spot, it's a nice thing. Some different kinds of things we could do with grants. It was mentioned that if we could possibly, and take the wording, because I'm going to word this terribly, and they know I will, unusual, weird, or interesting ways of using art. A lot of times you can get outside funding, but they expect you to be, a certain way of doing it. But sometimes the really unusual stuff, if there was a grant category for unusual or new innovative ways of doing art. I didn't give any examples. I did good. Another really important thing would be if the Arts Commission would have a directory of funding. All these places that will do it, if we can actually give y'all a directory of where you can get outside funding and what kind of things you have to do to get that. The last thing that I'll throw in, I'm sure I'm skipping some of it, but I got it all written down, is possibly a better rotating grant schedule, because sometimes it's really hard if you have an event that's now to know if it's going to happen in 2 years or a year ahead, and maybe if it was every 6 months or however it is, it's hard when you have an event and the funding's already taken place for this year and trying to figure out how you can do it, because a lot of times it's, hey, this just popped up and you need a little more. With the Arts Commission in the past, it's been a thing of, it's kind of like planning out a major event way off in the distance, and some really great things pop up in short time frames, and if we could find ways to accommodate that better.
So more flexibility, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Anybody else? I think we have time for one more, maybe one or two. Okay. Let's see how long.
I won't talk very long because there was only there seems like a common theme. But one of the things our table shared was the idea is that money is not the answer, and that if you can't share ideas, network, and really sharing and having a statewide mission that is shared not just amongst the Arts Commission, but amongst all of you grantees, and that we're all moving in really the same direction, that we can't really grow. The idea that if somebody else is growing, then that just makes the other us larger. And this idea of that we're not all competing for the same audience. We're not competing. We're sharing experience because art is really what is changing people and growing our audience. And that we've got to be focused on the art, not focused on the other things.
That's nice. Julie over there.
Here, I'm going to go to Julie, then Roby.
Sounds good.
Yeah, in an effort not to repeat too much stuff, our group seemed to, some of the major things that kind of floated to the top as far as challenges go were lack of political and civic leadership, a lack of people with a vision for where they want the community to go and how the arts are included in that. A thing that I think comes up for most people, which is this feeling of competition amongst arts organizations for funding. And rather than sort of being inclusive, being very protective of those, one of the things that we talked about was how do you take a challenge and turn it into an opportunity. So the thing that we flipped it over was, okay, so if we're all competing to do this, how do we turn that into an opportunity? And you do that through forging new partnerships, but not only the usual partnerships, not just relying on your other arts organizations to collaborate with, but actually casting a larger net to find partners that you normally wouldn't include in your normal sort of thinking. How can your community benefit from the arts in addressing these challenges? We talked about using the arts to drive tourism. We talk about how if a community is willing to invest in the arts, it helps sort of showcase and then further develop community pride. So a way that the arts can drive sort of bringing everybody together and creating a sense of unity and pride and placemaking.
Nice. Shannon, do you have your notes with you or not?
I don't have my
Okay, so maybe we can just go to Roby.
We covered a lot of territory that the other remarks reflect. I think as far as challenges, sustaining the rate of growth in the environment of rising expenses and keeping up with capacity, and the arts are not unique in that, but that's kind of a motif. And all our participants were from urban situations. One of the interesting observations was that the changes in media and communications and so forth are really forcing organizations to approach new ways to market and new use of technology, and differential uses of that are really forcing groups to be better at segmenting different components of their audience, and of course that has about ways to reach them and engage them, and that has really enforced closer evaluation of audience issues and effectiveness of programs. As far as benefits to the community, changing demographics have really created an environment in which programming can more effectively build bridges on a civic level and cross differences, and along with that, hopefully increase the level of public civility in recognizing and engaging people across these differences. As far as ways the TAC can help, networking and that kind of thing was really something of value. In particular, opportunities to stand back and directly address issues structurally and as things in and of themselves. The observation was that often arts people talk to each other and they all kind of assume the background situation, but they don't really approach it analytically and really spend time breaking things down, and that opportunities to do that in networking are valuable. Also, the leading people to other resources from beyond particular localities or even in state is a function that the TAC can help provide.
How many people have not had a chance to report out yet? Because I want to just know, there's 1, 2, 3. So that would be great. Let's just use that time to have those folks report out as much as we can, so we can hear from everybody.
We have discussed the other challenges as everyone else, but one of the great challenges that came out during our table discussion was the facilities with the lack of accessibility. But people with disabilities, I mean, it's not just someone that's in a wheelchair. You have to take into consideration the blind, the deaf, and the dumb. And also it was brought out that disability adequate should be discussed and used at all arts venues and facilities, and the arts organization needs to make this a part of their teaching and engaging people with disabilities, because we do have some facilities that doesn't have it's more than just a handicap ramp accessibility. And also one thing that came out at our table discussion is the question is not what TAC can do for us, is what they can do to help TAC.
Nice. I like that. That's great. A little President Kennedy in there. That's good.
This will be really quick. One thing that we touched upon as far as challenges is concerned was immediate challenges for these people at my table was crime within their communities, and how crime is drawing attention and resources from other departments or funders, and how they can use that as a possible opportunity to partner with crime solvers or crime fighters or police departments. So that was brought up. And then the second thing I want to bring up is we talked about accessibility and diversity, and how arts organizations are always challenged to become better at that. But also, if we flip that over, we have a history of trying to be better at that, and can bring that to the table when partnering with other organizations and with civic groups. So that though we're never perfect, and nobody wants to be perfect because we'll become complacent, we always want to challenge ourselves, but we can bring that strength to our partnerships.
Just echoing what a lot of the tables have said, with our table, there was some of the challenges are coalition building, and there's a great economic divide in this community as well. But some of the opportunities that they have that are coming up is they do have support of the mayor and the city managers, and that they were this is Kingsport, they were recently certified as an AARP community, so there's opportunity with that demographic. And then also how to keep building the momentum with current projects, large projects that they have, and how to keep building that. And then for the answer for number 3, how can TAC support would be have on our, echoing what other people said, on our website, having other a listing of funding resources, and then also possibly if TAC could hold these types of meetings in different areas throughout the state, so they can get city managers and other community members to these types of meetings, so they can have that direct contact.
I think we're just down to Shannon, aren't we? Oh, no, we've got one couple of others. Great.
As far as opportunities in Memphis, education, as far as challenges in Memphis, the educational system is a challenge. There are 2 separate school systems, city and county, are coming together, which is, again, creating a challenge. Workforce development is a challenge. The dropout rate is high. Corporations are moving to Memphis, and Memphis is having trouble finding qualified workers. The Volkswagen plant must hire Tennessee workers. That's a rule there. They recently had to get permission to go outside of Tennessee to find specialized workers. As far as opportunities, Kids want to learn and like the arts. Kids in a school protested when the arts were cut. The symphony serves about 30,000 school kids a year. Professional musicians work with the kids. Demand for arts often is greater than the capacity to provide the arts. Arts council's high demand for the arts cannot be sustained because a great demand exists. It's the same with the Orpheum. More demand that they can provide. 800 students are on the waiting list to see one show in Memphis. Memphis Symphony has amended their contract with their musicians so that they can do more work outside of their contract. They're now working more widely in the community as a result, so that's a good thing. Two, how can your community benefit from the arts in addressing these challenges and enhancing the opportunities? Continue to partner with educational institutions, creating innovative programs through community partnerships with other arts organizations, able to provide more arts programming and education in the community. Allied Arts has their Imagine program, which ensures that students have opportunities to experience the arts in Chattanooga in their K through 5 program. 3, beyond financial support, how can the Tennessee Arts Commission help you address these challenges and opportunities? Help organizations that the TAC funds to find grant opportunities elsewhere other than the TAC.
I can't believe we're getting everybody in. That's great.
Okay, well, I'm not going to repeat the ones that I've already heard, except for a select few. One thing that our table did talk about in terms of a challenge is for organizations to work with schools that are under duress with high-stakes testing, and also really in how to effectively implement arts integration. There's a lot of different misconceptions about what that actually is and how to make it work. Also, we did talk about another challenge being, the fact that public funding is down throughout the state, whether it's on a state or local level or even the national level. And also that for artists in particular, a challenge during a down economy is that people don't buy art because it is not a part of their discretionary income anymore. In terms of opportunities, one thing that a lot of people from Memphis at our table talked about is that there is a tremendous push in the arts, that there's lots of new activities, there's a real energy that's happening. The one thing that people really want to figure out is how to really assign a value to these experiences and really make them sustainable. Also, in terms of school systems, this is another opportunity because arts can make a significant impact in children's lives and really help the education in different subject areas very well. Also, people really see professional development as a real opportunity because there's always better ways of doing things, and I heard from several people that they would want a conference every year from us.
Listen to how the voice.
But also, one thing that we did spend some time talking about is how we need to better. There needs to be a better way to address diversity. One of our members made this point. There aren't that many people from other ethnicities, other groups at this conference, and that's something that the Tennessee Arts Commission needs to address. And also an opportunity. There are lots of young artists. They need to be organized. They need to be a part of different movements. That is an opportunity for us. In terms of community benefits, we talked a lot about how the community can be better advocates for themselves and how this diminishes division between different community groups, how making people feel comfortable and building understanding really helps participation in arts activities. And also that there needs to be, again, more opportunities for nonprofit training, because this will only help organizations get stronger. And with stronger arts organizations, we're helping to unite communities and address different social issues that are important. So also another benefit, and it's very straightforward, is that employment for artists really builds tax revenue. Encouraging the arts does sustain Tennessee culture, and that's something we're all interested in. 3, conferences every year. More networking opportunities. People really want to meet with their peers. They've enjoyed doing that here, but they feel like there are more opportunities to really make it a more formalized process. And also, I had some specific requests. We will make a list of conference attendees available on the website. And we did have a request to really show how to link up local arts agencies with more specific intents in terms of TAC funding.
Great. Thank you so much. So let's just give another hand to our facilitators and to all of you. Very nice. Great feedback. It's very interesting because my work with other states, I can see some very common threads in some of these comments in terms of what constituents want, what all of you want of your state arts agency. Certainly professional development and networking is always at the top of the list when you take out financial resources. That's always a really key area. I think one of the things that's very interesting is that there were a lot of there was a lot of interest in diversity and finding ways to make TAC materials more accessible to people, Spanish, for example, translating into Spanish, and also helping the arts community to find ways to integrate people from various backgrounds into various leadership roles. In terms of issues, I heard a lot of people comment about aging audiences and the ways in which the audiences are declining in arts organizations. Competition between small and large organizations came up a couple of times in your comments, and partnerships was seen as a way that people could really mitigate against some community issues, particularly many of the issues that were raised around crime and other kinds of persistent problems in communities. So that's certainly one of them. And just a few strategies were mentioned that were kind of interesting. Really thinking about amending contracts with union musicians so that they can take on other work, I think is a very specific strategy, not necessarily in the buckets that we talked about, but a really good strategy nonetheless. And you had many, many other ideas, and I can see that the time is moving forward, so I'm going to turn it over to Anne to bring us to conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. This is the first in the process. You will hear much more from us on the strategic plan, and we really, really appreciate your participation, and hopefully it was helpful. Thank you very much, and go to your next sessions. Thank you.